Hello everyone and welcome to It Goes Off. It's wrap of the round time. We've just completed round 8 and it would appear as though round 8 has unveiled the fact the New Zealand Breakers have a nemesis.
It would appear that nemesis is indeed the Perth Wildcats, the only team to have beaten the Breakers this year, and they've beaten them twice.
Yes, and Cedric Jackson again, he just keeps on keeping on, had the 15 points in that game, but the Perth Wildcats able to bounce back from 3 consecutive losses.
They did, and it was a pretty big win they had at home. Really needed it. And it was a good win, 89-64, 25 points over the Breakers. Not too many teams are going to do that.
Well, talk us through all the other winners and losers throughout round 8.
As we said, it started with that game in Perth. Sean Redditch had 20 points. The Wildcats were red hot. They shot the ball at 55%. They outscored the Breakers 36-16 across the middle 2 periods, held them to 8 points in the second quarter and 8 points in the third quarter, and they dominated the boards 41-23. Up in Queensland, the Cairns Taipans 76 lost to the Sydney Kings 83 in overtime. Jamal Wilson had 19 points for the Snakes. Dusty Reichart sent it into overtime with a tip-in at the buzzer. Ben Madgen, surely the MVP favourite, 29 points on a lazy 8 of 14 field goals. He just keeps getting it done for the Sydney Kings. Townsville Crocodiles went very close to closing that donut over. 63 to the Perth Wildcats, 68. Gary Irvin, 18 points, 7 boards, 6 assists. But the Crocs only shot the ball at 33% from the floor. The Wildcats got 15 points apiece from Kevin Lish and Jesse Wagstaff. Finally, the Wollongong Hawks go to the top of the table, 74 against the Melbourne Tigers, 66. Johnny Flynn had 19 points, 8 assists for the Tigers. But Idris De Leon, 18 points for the Hawks. 4 of those in the fourth quarter as the Hawks went 23-13 to get yet another win.
Idris, too hard to guard, De Leon, and he was a handful, particularly down the straight. And really, he's been showing that form right throughout the season. We saw it a few weeks ago against the Adelaide 36ers in the fourth quarter. He came up big time, and again on the weekend against the Melbourne Tigers. In the crisis, the Wollongong Hawks happy to put the ball in his hands and let him make things something happen, and he delivered in spades. One of the tough luck stories of the season has been the Townsville Crocs. They changed their imports at the start of the season. They've yet to register a win at 0-10, but there looks like there's help on the way coming in the form of Luke Neville, the big 7-footer who spent some time with the Melbourne Tigers and the Perth Wildcats. He has been signed by the Townsville Crocs, much needed depth in their talent.
Well, he's going to give them some much needed depth in their interior game, isn't he? Not sure he'll help the fast break game, but Big Luke, he's going to be a body inside for them. That's got to help. Looks like Larry Abney's going to be down for a little while too. So
yes.
Not good for the old Crocs. 0-10, you know, knock knock. But you know, surely they're going to get off the schneid sooner or later.
You would like. I think it's unlikely they're going to go OFA for the entire season. So let's.
Did anyone say that about the 1988 Geelong Supercats?
Well, that is true. We never thought they'd go OFA, and in fact, they went OFA.
Quite easily too.
No, but there's too much talent, particularly with Luke Neville coming in. I actually think he will help their transition basketball because he's going to be out there and hopefully grab the boards. And probably most importantly, big defensive presence in the paint, which they need. That last line of defence when things break down. Got a good shot blocker on their roster. I think it's only good times ahead you would expect for the Townsville Crocs. Let's take a look at the INET NBL ladder, and at the top of the table it's the Wollongong Hawks. We said it last week and we'll say it again, that to anyone would have to be a surprise if you consider what the rankings were pre-season. Great effort by the Wollongong Hawks at 7-1, playing some good basketball. The New Zealand Breakers at 7-2, they're hanging around. You can guarantee that they're going to be thereabouts with their squad. The Perth Wildcats bouncing back at 5-3, Adelaide also at 5-3, and the Sydney Kings, we've been singing their praises. Shane Hill doing a great job at 6-4. Another very close win, overtime win against the Cairns Taipans, who the Taipans starting to let it slip now at 3-6, digging themselves a bit of a hole. 2-6 for the Melbourne Tigers. And they've still got plenty of work to do based on the form against the Wollongong Hawks on the weekend. And the Townsville Crocs, as we mentioned, 0-10, really struggling at the minute. Grantley, put your crystal ball on that very small bonce of yours and just give us your take with, you know, a third of the way or a quarter of the way for some of the teams. Who do you think, outside of the top 4, is any chance to see playoff action?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how you put the crystal ball on the head. I haven't figured that one out. But anyway, on we go.
In your head.
Look, I think the only team that is going to go into the playoff bracket is the Sydney Kings.
Only one with a team with a chance. Do you think they'll make it?
Well, they're sitting at 6-4 right now. I think that's a pretty good record, a pretty good foundation coming up to Christmas. I think the Kings are doing a good job. I don't know who's going to come out though. That's the big question. I think maybe Adelaide's the shaky one, but you would think the longer Adelaide plays together, the better they're going to get. And I like the top 4 as it sits. Yes. If that was the top 4 as we finished, how would your pre-season tips?
Well, I honestly don't think that the Wollongong Hawks will finish on top. I think that they've surprised everyone, but none of them would consider themselves a lock given the parity amongst the competition. But certainly New Zealand, with the talent they have, and also Perth with just their history, 8 zillion years since they've missed the playoffs, you'd expect that they're going to be in there. But
are you going to make a prediction?
I'm actually going to predict that I can't predict because it's too tough to tell. I really can't say. I wouldn't rule out Cairns or Melbourne just yet. The only team I'm prepared to rule out at this point of the junction is the Townsville Crocs at 0-10.
That's pretty strong by you.
Well, I can prepare to rule them out at 0-10. That's all we have time for, but remember, if you want to keep up to date with all the scores and goings-on in the NBL, the stats, the news, the information, everything that you need to know about the Ironet NBL, you can check it out at nbl.com.au and follow all the action on Channel 1, doing a fantastic job with their coverage on Friday nights, and Channel 10 on Sunday afternoon, and NBL TV just keeps on keeping on, doing a fantastic job, and the Android app is out. I've downloaded and it works, an absolute treat, Grantley. It's fantastic. So for all those Android users out there, hallelujah, we can now watch the NBL on the go. It's fantastic stuff. As we do each week, we need to say thanks to those that support this great game, and it all starts with the naming rights sponsor. Grantley, who is it?
Ironet.
Connect better.
10.
And 1.
Sporting.
And FUP.
And Virgin Australia.
Fantastic stuff. Great to have you back in the chair, Grantley. And don't forget, in the ticket off section, Grantley takes a buy, and Oscar Foreman is going to be in this very chair. We get to have a chat to him a little later in the week, so make sure you come back and check it all out on the #1 podcast in the universe, and it's called It Goes Off.